Now let us look at what we said, that there are no change in the personal taxes except that little 2,000 rupees of little begging bowl जो तुमको दिया वो दिया, doesn't help. Then what happened is, see, look at the interesting part, what he did on the personal front. Last year, Pranab Mukherjee Sahab had introduced this. Now today, if I am buying a house from you, or I am selling a house to you, house property, or any which is costing more than 50 lakhs of rupees, Chidambaram Sahab says that the buyer has to deduct 1% of tax at source and give the rest of the money to the seller. Please understand, last year Pranab Mukherjee Sahab had introduced this, people had objected, and then it was set aside, saying no, okay, we will not continue with this provision, and set aside. This year he has brought it. So, and what did he say? Very interesting. He says when houses that you buy have to go in for stamping and registration, correct? Are you aware of that?
Yes.
So he says when they are going for stamping and registration, I find that lot of the documents people don't write, the buyers don't write their permanent account numbers. What is it called? PAN. This Chidambaram has a fascination for 3 words. PAN. So he says they don't write PAN numbers, and because some of the buyers don't write PAN numbers, now I am punishing all the buyers. Every buyer will have to deduct 1% tax at source. And sir, you should have brought in a clause to say that those people who are not writing PAN numbers, they should be deducted 1% tax at source. अगर रामो मस्ती करता है तो शामों को क्यों मारते हो? But he says, how do I know whether Shamu is going to pay or not pay? So everybody को मारो, whole class is punished. And this is what he has brought in. And what he says is, if the house brought is more than 50 lakhs of rupees. Now, 50 lakhs of rupees in Thane, Vashi, Belapur, Navi Mumbai, etc. Can you get a house for 50 lakhs of rupees? You can't get a house for 50. And the problem is, you know what with him? Is that when you have to deduct tax at source, everybody has a PAN number. He says some of them don't have a PAN number. But to deduct that tax at source, if I deduct tax at source, I have to fill in a challan, I have to make a check, and I have to pay it to the income tax department, and then I should have a TAN number. Tax deducted at source number. Now I am not a businessman, I am an ordinary person like you and me, I am a mango person. What person? Mango person मतलब? Correct, वो picture देखी थी आप. Mango person. So I will have to apply for a TAN number. It will take me 15-20 days to get a TAN number. I will have to then take the PAN number. I will have to fill the challan. I will have to pay it in the income tax department. They will have to process it. So please understand how many man hours are going to be lost. But what he says possibly, नहीं इधर public को बहुत time है, करेंगे काम कुछ. They'll do it for us. They'll work for the government without a fee. So this is what he did on personal taxation. Then the other, on the personal front, what he has also introduced is that there was, now when you buy and sell a house property or a property, there is that stamp duty value, correct?
Yes.
Meaning, suppose if the stamp duty value is 50 lakhs and you have sold it for 40 lakhs, what happens is the income tax department says that you have therefore received 10 lakhs in cash. Whether you have received or no is not it. So he says therefore you have received 10 lakhs of rupees in cash. And therefore what happens, the buyer was subjected to that tax on the 10 lakhs. Now he has brought in a provision to say that if a transaction like this has happened for inadequate consideration, meaning this is called the consideration was not adequate. Earlier, understand, 2 years ago, it was said that the buyer and the seller both have to pay tax on that 10 lakhs. Then 2 years ago, people said, no, this is not correct. Why should both pay tax? That only one person pay tax. That only the buyer pay, because you are assuming that the buyer. Now people say, no, seller also has got more money. So from this time, he has introduced that section back. To say what? That if there is inadequate consideration, even the seller will pay tax. Alright. Then you come to the next one. For people, personal, what has happened is that he says that today what is happening is, now you people are investing your money in say mutual funds, correct? Why? Because people say it is safer to put money in a mutual fund where they use their head and knuckle, then they invest your money for you in stock market, they make profit and money, and then they give you money, correct? Now, there are different kind of schemes, there are different kind of mutual funds, etc., etc. So he starts with that, and then what happens? Therefore, these are called pass-through entities, meaning your money is given to the fund invests, the fund sells, the fund gets money, and the fund gives you money, or sometimes gives you dividend or interest. Now he says that interest-bearing funds had to deduct 12.5% TDS and then distribute the money to the people who were, to the investors. Now he says that there are so many different schemes, there are so many different rates of TDS. So to rationalize, mind you, he uses the word rationalize, I am changing the rate of TDS and making it proper. And what does he do to rationalize? From 12.5%, he increases this to 25%. So now look what happens. Retired people, so many people, when that money is deducted at source and it is paid to them, and the money therefore available to be distributed in the hands of the investors would naturally be lesser. Yes or no? And when it is lesser, then you have to, and those people will say that our profits were not so much, they will have to file income tax return which they file, they will have to claim a refund, and when they get the money, they get the surplus, then they will be able to distribute to you. And have you read today's Times of India? How many of you have read? Go back home today and read the Times of India. Times of India, page number 7, 8 or 9 somewhere, it talks about that the income tax department has stopped giving refunds to people. Why? Because in their income and expenditure account, their budget, if they give away the refund which is due to you rightly, their money will become less. And if their money becomes less, their budget or whatever they are balancing, their figures, etc., will not balance. They will not have that much of funds available with them. So they are, on the contrary, putting a gun on your head, and if you have not paid your taxes, your TDS, your service tax, your sales tax, they are collecting money. And money is to be given to you, they are not. I will give you afterwards. What is this called? In Mumbai language it is called Dadagiri or Bhaigiri. Correct. Dabanggiri, our sir says. And that is what they are doing. Then what is happening is, I was told, sir, I don't know, you may correct me if I am wrong, when when Indira Gandhi passed away, 1984 was it? She was born in 1984? 84? Yeah, 84. Pranab Mukherjee and 2-3 other leaders, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, they were all coming back from West Bengal in the flight. They were all there. And the normal tradition was that the next first person, senior person in the Congress or in the ruling party would become the Prime Minister. At that time, the person who could have become the Prime Minister was Mr. Pranab Mukherjee. But people in the plane, they convinced him that the sentiments are not right, people are all agitated, there are riots going on because Mrs. Gandhi was, I think some of you must not even have been born. Were you born in 84? No, so you don't know this. So they said, they persuaded Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, you please don't become the Prime Minister, we will make Rajiv Gandhi the Prime Minister. So Pranab Mukherjee, possibly very grudgingly, had to give up his right of becoming a Prime Minister in favor of Rajiv Gandhi, and unfortunately Pranab Mukherjee could never become the Prime Minister. So what he did was, that's what they say, to insult possibly Rajiv Gandhi. He last year introduced a scheme called Rajiv Gandhi Equity Saving Scheme. And what did the scheme say? That for the first time investors, if you invest in equity shares, I will give you 50% rebate. In tax, you will get 50% rebate. Now, majority of the people who could afford to invest were already investors. So, the number of people to whom this scheme was applied, was possibly microscopic. Correct? And then he says it is only 1 year, first time you get this, if you are the first time investor. And secondly is that those who could afford to invest for the first time were not earning enough to invest. So everybody had thought that this scheme, like say after my lecture gets over, and everybody will say, "Chalo, thank you very much, Chutti." How everybody, all of you will rush out home. Correct, na? Jaan Chutti. Chalo, bhago. So what they had thought that at that time, that when he announces this scheme, people will rush to invest money in that scheme. Hardly anybody, there was no investment. So what Chidambaram Sahib did this time very quietly, he made some changes. He says that even if you invest money in equity-based mutual funds, instead of new equity shares, and those new equity shares, again he had defined, should be of a new promoter, a new businessman, whose plant and machinery was so much and all that. Arey Baba, if I invest in his company, he'll run away tomorrow and 50% tax relief I'll get, and the other 50% my money only is gone. So nobody invests. So now what Chidambaram said, okay, if you invest first time in equity-based mutual funds, you will get the benefit, and the first-time investor will be called first-time investor for 3 years. So he has given you that extension, again hoping, like after this lecture will end, everybody will rush out of the hall, that lot of people will rush to invest in this scheme. People will not invest. You know why? One of the reasons is because in the last 6 months, the equity-based mutual fund schemes are all down. So the issue is that, is this law pragmatic? Is it proper, practicable or no? Who will answer you? So what is your answer to this? Yes or no? No. Kai poche.